Warning, spoilers for Star Trek, Lower Decks Season 3, Episode 3 Mining the Mines. The USS Hood returns in Star Trek, Lower Decks Season 3, Episode 3, and the Excelsior-class starship could have been captained by William T. Riker, Jonathan Frakes, if he hadn't transferred aboard the USS Enterprise D. In Star Trek, Lower Decks Episode 3, the USS Hood makes a brief appearance when United Federation of Planets citizens were turned into statues by a race called the Scrubble. The Hood's Captain Murakami brokered a tentative peace, but this could have been Captain Will Riker's job had he stayed aboard the Hood. Commander William Riker was the first officer of the USS Hood when he accepted a transfer to become the number 1 of the USS Enterprise D under Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart. Notably, along with Riker, the Hood also delivered Dr. Beverly Crusher, Gates McFadden, and Chief Engineer Geordie LaForge, LeVar Burton, to the Enterprise D. Riker's previous starship postings were the USS Pegasus and the USS Potemkin, as well as a stint on Betazed where Will met his Mzada and future wife, Deanna Troi, Marina Sirtis. After Riker departed, the Hood made multiple appearances in Star Trek, The Generation, and the Excelsior-class vessel also fought in the Dominion War on Star Trek, Deep Space Nine. The Hood was last seen in Star Trek, Nemesis as part of the armada assigned to intercept the Romulan flagship, the Scimitar, commanded by Pretor Shinzen. Commander Riker famously turned down several promotions to captain in order to remain aboard the Enterprise. Riker said no to becoming captain of the USS Drake, the USS Ares, and the USS Melbourne. Instead, Will patiently waited for his turn to succeed Picard as captain of the Federation flagship. But, after 15 years, Riker finally left the Enterprise to become captain of the USS Titan. Still, had Riker not moved onto the Enterprise D in 2364, he would likely have succeeded Captain Robert DeSoto, Michael Cavanaugh, as the Hood's commanding officer in just a few years' time. Riker had numerous chances to make captain quickly, but he said no to all of them as he waited, in vain, for the Enterprise. Star Trek has finally fixed Captain Riker. Captain Riker has appeared in live action in Star Trek, Picard and in animated form in Star Trek, Lower Decks. Seeing Will Riker wearing 4 pips on his Starfleet uniform's collar and commanding the bridge of a starship quickly became such a welcome and familiar sight that it's easy to forget that Trekkers waited 18 years to see it. Riker was never actually seen taking command of the USS Titan in Star Trek, Nemesis, and his exploits leading the Titan were the purview of Star Trek novels and comic books B canon for almost 2 decades. Captain Riker was finally seen in command of the USS Jung-hee in Star Trek, Picard's Season 1 finale, while Lower Decks Seasons 1 and 2 had a blast showing a wild and hilarious Captain Riker leading the Titan on action-packed, serialized adventures. Meanwhile, it's good to see the USS Hood still in action in Star Trek, Lower Decks Season 3. The Hood must be about 20 years old by Lower Decks timeframe in the early 2380s, but the Excelsior-class ship remains one of Starfleet's most durable workhorses. It's hard to imagine how different Star Trek would be if Commander Riker never left for the USS Enterprise D and became captain of the Hood instead, or if Will had accepted any of the other promotions to captain he was offered throughout Star Trek, The Generation. Perhaps the USS Hood will be seen in live action one more time in Star Trek, Picard Season 3. Star Trek, Lower Decks Season 3 streams Thursdays on Paramount+.
With a gentle touch you tell me what